Here's a number that stops a lot of people cold when they hear it. The median retirement accounts balance for Americans between 65 and 74, the heart of retirement age, it's about $200,000. That's it. Now sit with that for a second. Every financial article you ever read says you need $1 million or 1.5 or even 2 million. And yet the actual median retiree in America, the person right in the middle of the distribution, has saved about $200,000. So one of two things must be true. Either tens of millions of Americans are quietly running out of money in retirement, or there's something about the math that those headlines aren't telling you. My name is Rip. Welcome back to Rip Talks Money. As always, hit that like button for me. And let's figure out which one it is. The biggest gap in how most people think about retirement is this. They think about it as a savings problem, not an income problem. When you're working, your financial life, it's simple. Money comes in, you spend what you need, you save the rest. The paycheck is the center of gravity. Everything orbits around it. But in retirement, that changes, and the mental model has to change with it. Because retirement income doesn't come from one source, it comes from several, layered together, and the $200,000 in savings is only one piece of a much larger picture. Now, here's what the actual income picture looks like for a typical retired household. About 90% of retirees, they receive Social Security. The average benefit for a retired worker today, it's roughly $2,000 a month, about $24,000 per year. Now, for a married couple with two earners, combined Social Security benefits frequently lands between $3,500 and $4,500 a month. So anywhere from $42,000 to $54,000 per year. Now, that alone covers a substantial share of what most households spend. But then you got home equity. About 76% of households aged 65 to 74, they own their homes, and many have paid off mortgages. And that matters enormously here because housing, that is typically the biggest expense in any monthly budget. Eliminate or significantly reduce that payment, and the income you need, it drops dramatically. And pensions. Younger viewers are often surprised by this because about 1 in 3 current retirees, they still receive some form of pension income. These are people who have built their careers on their old employment systems, and that reliable monthly check, it is still arriving. So when you add all of that together, the $200,000 in savings, it stops looking like a disaster and it starts looking like one piece of a functioning income system. So let me run through a specific example because this is where it gets real. Take a married couple with 200,000 in retirement savings. They receive combined Social Security of about 48,000 per year, which is about 4K per month. Now, realistic for two moderate earners. They have a small pension from one spouse's career, let's just say $10,000 per year, and they draw $10,000 from their investment portfolio here, which is a 5% withdrawal on $200,000. Your total is about $68,000 per year. Now, the Bureau of Labor statistics here, they show that households 65 and older, they spend an average of about $61,000 per year covering housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and entertainment. Our hypothetical couple at 68,000 is above average spending with their home paid off. Now, this is the math behind the headline. A $200,000 portfolio inside a complete income system with Social Security, a pension, a paid off home, it actually works for a larger number of people. The retirement savings impact, it is worth naming directly here. Because if you're building retirement around how big does my portfolio need to be, you're solving the wrong equation. The right question is, how much monthly income do I need and what combination of sources provide it? The portfolio's job is just to fill the gap, not carry the whole load. And here's a data point that I find generally striking. The Employee Benefit Research Institute, they run an annual retirement confidence survey. Their 2025 data found that 67% of workers say that they're confident they'll have enough money in retirement, but 78% of actual retirees say they're confident. Think about that. The people who are in retirement are more comfortable than the people who are planning for it. And this pattern shows up year after year. Why? Because the fear of retirement is often built around the projection problem. You're 50 and someone asks you to estimate what the next 30 years of your life will cost. Most people imagine constant travel, steady medical expenses, big lifestyle spending, and they arrive at some terrifying number. But then retirement arrives, and people discover that payroll taxes stop, retirement contributions stop, commuting costs stop. A lot of the expenses that revolved around the working life, they just quietly disappeared. Social Security turns on, and it often pays more than expected. And many retirees, they realize their actual monthly spending, it's lower, sometimes significantly lower than they ever projected. Now, that doesn't mean that underpreparing it's smart. It means that anxiety gap between what workers fear and what retirees actually experience, it's real. And it's worth knowing about before you spend years paralyzed by a number that might not even apply to your life. Now, I want to be honest about the limits of this picture because there are real situations where the math doesn't work. Single retirees, they live alone. They face a harder version of this math. One Social Security check instead of two, one person covering all housing costs, one income stream if something goes wrong. The Federal Reserve's data shows that single retirees, while generally reporting confidence, they have significantly less margin for error. So if you're single, the impact is clear. Your portfolio needs to carry more of the load, which argues for saving more aggressively or planning a longer working career. Now, healthcare, one of the other major wild cards. Medicare covers a lot, but not everything, and not long-term care. The cost of assisted living, memory care, or extended in-home care, it can run anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 per month. Now, for someone with $200,000 saved, a serious long-term care event, it could generally be destabilizing. This is the gap that most $200,000 retirees, they are vulnerable to. And it's why building even a modest long-term care plan, whether through insurance, a dedicated savings bucket, or family planning, it matters more at this portfolio level than almost anything else. And there's one more wild card we got to talk about here. Geography. $61,000 a year, it works comfortable in, say, rural Tennessee. It's generally tighter in coastal California or even New York City. The average retiree spending data is a national average, and national averages, they hide enormous variation. So what's the practical takeaway from all this? Well, first, stop thinking about your retirement number in isolation. A $200,000 portfolio inside a strong Social Security situation and a paid off home, it is a fundamentally different thing than a $200,000 portfolio with a mortgage and no pension. Context is everything. Second, build your own income map. List out your Social Security, list any pensions or any other guaranteed incomes you may have. Add up what you actually spend per month now and then adjust for what your retirement will look like. The gap between your income sources and your spending is the number that your portfolio actually has to cover. And for most people, that gap is smaller than they think. Third, take the healthcare wildcard seriously. The $200,000 retiree who has a long-term care plan is in a fundamentally more secure position than one who doesn't, even if the investment account looks identical. And fourth, pay attention to the confidence data. It's easy to let retirement anxiety drive decisions that aren't actually connected to your real numbers. The data says that 78% of retirees are confident that they'll be fine. Understand why and figure out whether that actually applies to you. So here's your bottom line. The 200,000 median retirement savings number, it isn't a crisis static or statistic here, that because once you understand what surrounds it, everything changes. Social Security, home equity, pensions, the income picture for most retirees is more complete than the savings number alone actually suggests. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't save more if you can. It means you should be solving for retirement income, not just retirement savings. And those are two completely different problems. If this was useful, give it a like. It helps more people find this channel who need to hear this. Drop a comment down below and tell me, does this change how you think about your own retirement number? I read all the comments, folks. New video coming out tomorrow. That's right. Every day this week. Pay attention. You're not going to want to miss them. I'm Rip, and I'm going to see all y'all on the next one.